Venice, a city of canals and bridges, is renowned for its stunning architecture and rich history. In the 13th century, it was a bustling trading hub, teeming with merchants and travelers from all over the world. The markets were filled with exotic goods, spices, and textiles, making it a melting pot of cultures and ideas. It was in this vibrant city that Marco Polo was born in 1254. Growing up in Venice, Marco was surrounded by the tales of adventure and exploration that his father and uncle would bring back from their travels. His father, Niccolo, and his uncle, Maffeo, were successful merchants who often traveled to the east, bringing back not only goods, but also fascinating stories of distant lands and cultures. They spoke of the Silk Road, the vast deserts, and the bustling markets of the east. Young Marco was captivated by these stories. He would spend hours listening to his father and uncle, dreaming of the day he could embark on his own adventures. He pored over maps and imagined the far-off places he had heard about, his mind filled with wonder and curiosity. At the age of 17, Marco's dreams began to take shape. He joined his father and uncle on a journey that would change his life forever. They set sail from Venice, leaving behind the familiar canals and bridges, and ventured into the unknown. Their journey took them across the Mediterranean Sea, a vast expanse of water that connected Europe to the east. The sea was dotted with ships of all sizes, each carrying goods and stories from distant lands. Marco could feel the excitement and anticipation building as they sailed towards the horizon. Little did Marco know, this journey would last over 24 years. They traveled through deserts, mountains, and cities, each place more fascinating than the last. Marco documented everything he saw, from the grand palaces to the humble villages, capturing the essence of the cultures he encountered. He would travel farther than any European before him and see amazing things that would capture the world's attention. His travels took him to the court of Kublai Khan, the Mongol ruler, where he served for many years. Marco's accounts of his journeys opened the eyes of Europe to the wonders of the East, inspiring generations of explorers to come. The Polos left Venice in 1271. Their trip was long and tough. They sailed the Mediterranean, stopping at ports in the Byzantine Empire and the Holy Land. From there, they headed east by camel, crossing dangerous deserts and the tall Pamir Mountains. Bandits and storms made the journey risky, but Marco's adventurous spirit never faded. He was determined to reach the east and see the wonders his dad and uncle talked about. The Polos' journey took years. They crossed Persia, saw amazing old cities, and experienced different cultures. They even crossed the huge Gobi Desert, which amazed Marco. Finally, in 1275, they reached Kublai Khan's summer capital. Kublai Khan ruled the vast Mongol Empire. Marco, just 21, was about to enter a world of incredible riches and power, ruled by one of history's most powerful men. Kublai Khan liked Marco and was impressed by how smart he was. Marco learned to speak Mongol and fit in at court. The Khan saw Marco's talent and sent him on missions all over his empire, to China, India, and Southeast Asia. Marco worked as an ambassador and tax collector, carefully writing down everything he saw. He described the Khan's fancy court, the people's customs and beliefs, and the exotic animals and plants. After years of serving Kublai Khan, the Polos wanted to go home. The Khan didn't want them to leave, but in 1292, he finally agreed. They sailed from China, carrying tons of stories and experiences. On their way home, Marco met Rustichello da Pisa, a writer. Marco told him his stories, and Rustichello, realizing how important they were, wrote them down as the Travels of Marco Polo. In 1295, after 24 years, Marco Polo came home to Venice. His family barely knew him. He'd left a young man and returned a seasoned traveler with grey hair and beard. Marco's adventure stories amazed everyone in Venice. People loved hearing about the East and Kublai Khan's court. The Travels of Marco Polo became a huge hit, translated into many languages, showing Europeans the wonders of the East and inspiring future generations. Some people have questioned Marco Polo's stories, wondering if he really went everywhere he said. These doubts have persisted for centuries, with skeptics pointing to various inconsistencies and omissions in his accounts. For instance, they argue that his failure to mention the Great Wall of China, one of the most iconic landmarks of the region, is a glaring oversight. How could someone who claimed to have traveled extensively through China miss such a monumental structure? They point out he didn't mention the Great Wall of China and question some of his descriptions. Critics also highlight discrepancies in his descriptions of the culture, geography, and customs of the places he purportedly visited. Some of his accounts seem to be second-hand stories or exaggerated tales, leading to further skepticism about the authenticity of his travels. But many scholars believe Marco Polo, saying he was a careful observer and that other sources back up many of his descriptions. They argue that the absence of certain details, like the Great Wall, could be due to various reasons, such as the wall not being as prominent or significant during Polo's time as it is today. Additionally, they point out that Polo's detailed descriptions of the Mongol court, the wealth of the Yuan dynasty, and the intricacies of the Silk Road trade routes provide valuable insights that align with other historical records. They see his book as an important historical record. The Travels of Marco Polo is not just a travelogue, but a window into the medieval world, offering a glimpse into the diverse cultures, economies, and political landscapes of the 13th century. Scholars emphasize that while some details might be embellished or inaccurate, the core of his narrative holds significant historical value. Even if some details aren't perfect, The Travels of Marco Polo is still a captivating story, giving us a peek into the 13th century world and showing the human spirit of adventure. The book has inspired countless explorers, historians, and readers, igniting a sense of wonder and curiosity about the world. It serves as a testament to the enduring allure of exploration and the quest for knowledge, reminding us that the journey itself can be as enlightening as the destination. Marco Polo's travels had a big impact on Europe. His journey to the east opened up new horizons for Europeans, who were largely unaware of the vast and diverse cultures that existed beyond their continent. The detailed accounts of his adventures provided a glimpse into the rich and varied world of Asia, sparking curiosity and a desire for exploration among his contemporaries. His book, The Travels of Marco Polo, became a bestseller of its time, boosting trade between East and West. The Silk Road, which had been a well-trodden path for centuries, saw a resurgence in activity as merchants and traders sought to capitalize on the new opportunities described in Polo's writings. The exchange of goods, ideas, and culture between these distant lands was invigorated, leading to a period of unprecedented economic and cultural growth. Marco Polo's vivid descriptions of the wealth and wonders of the East inspired a new generation of explorers. Figures like Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and Ferdinand Magellan were driven by the tales of exotic lands and untold riches. They set out on their own voyages, hoping to discover new routes and territories, and in doing so, they expanded the known world and changed the course of history. Christopher Columbus, for example, had a copy of the Travels with him on his journey across the Atlantic. He was inspired by Marco Polo's accounts and hoped to find a westward route to the Indies, believing that he could reach the same fabled lands by sailing in the opposite direction. This ambition led to the discovery of the New World, a monumental event that reshaped global history. Columbus's voyages were just one example of how Marco Polo's legacy influenced exploration. The detailed maps and navigational tools developed during this period were directly inspired by the need to chart new territories and trade routes. These advancements in cartography and navigation were crucial in the age of discovery, enabling explorers to venture further and more safely than ever before. Just like Marco Polo had gone east, many explorers sought to follow in his footsteps, traveling to the far reaches of Asia. They were driven by the same sense of adventure and the promise of wealth and knowledge. The routes they established and the connections they made laid the groundwork for the global trade networks that would come to define the modern world. Marco Polo's legacy goes beyond exploration and trade. His travels and the subsequent dissemination of his stories had a profound impact on the European understanding of the world. They challenged existing perceptions and encouraged a more open and inquisitive mindset. The knowledge gained from his journeys contributed to the Renaissance, a period of renewed interest in science, art, and culture. His travels taught Europeans more about geography and culture, providing them with a broader perspective on the world. The detailed descriptions of the places he visited and the people he met helped to bridge the gap between East and West, fostering a greater appreciation for the diversity of human civilization. By helping Europeans understand the world beyond their borders, Marco Polo's legacy paved the way for future explorations and the eventual globalization of trade and culture. His contributions to the fields of geography, history, and cultural exchange remain significant to this day, reminding us of the enduring power of curiosity and the human spirit of adventure. Marco Polo's name will always be connected to adventure. He represents our desire to explore the unknown. His travels remind us how important it is to share cultures and understand each other. Centuries later, Marco Polo still inspires us. His story shows us that the world is a huge and amazing place, waiting to be explored and understood. His legacy reminds us that the best journeys aren't measured in miles, but in what we learn and experience along the way.